Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, welcome to the Beacon TVL Show, your source for fun takes and great news in the world of on-chain and blockchain ecosystem finance. I'm your host, Chris, the DeFi professor. Wanted to just come back this week, and I'm wearing my Cypher shirt. RIP to Cypher. They got acquired by Neom, N-I-U-M, I believe. Got this shirt like 4 years ago at ETH Denver. So shout out to them. A lot of projects that are not with us anymore, unfortunately, but we'll see what happens in that world. Let me just make sure that my audio looks like my audio is good, and just getting the word out about what we're doing today to all of our outlets. Hopefully everyone's had a great week. It's been an interesting 3 days, mainly because we're still waiting on Clarity Act. We are still trying to understand what is the geopolitical situation in the Middle East. So we have a blockade around a control, which is, I don't really know how to interpret that. But today's show is going to be a little bit of not a whole lot of news outside of that, just to be fairly transparent about it. But what I will do is pull up a couple things that I wanted to talk about. And we'll start with because I just talked about Cypher, and a little bit of a let me make this bigger. Shout out to Stacy Muir. Just a little bit of a sobering fact about the state of blockchain ecosystems. There were at one point there was roughly about 220 active blockchains. They're all probably still there. It's just for the majority of them, they're kind of at this spot. When you've got all of this money raised, and then fees wise, you've got this kind of happening. It's unfortunate. Barachain had 9 figures in it. That's probably not the case anymore. But Celestia, also a great project. They were meant to be in a world of modular blockchains. They were like the data aggregator availability service. Now, EigenCloud also took them on, and in most cases probably won. But the problem is that they kind of too much of this is stuff that's supposed to happen in the background, right? So ultimately trying to figure out raising this much money, how do you make money off of that? I think the EigenCloud airdrop, the Celestia airdrop, which a lot of people in our community did very well on, man, it's tough, right? Because you want to create value for people who put money and just time into exploring your protocol, but at the same time, how do you figure them out? Scroll, I mean, it seems like that was an inside job for the exploit for them, which caused everything to crash. Eclipse, that was a Solana layer 2. That didn't go well. Sonic has a new CEO. So we'll see exactly if they can figure out a way to get back on top. And then Manta. Well, there's Manta Atlantic and there's Manta Pacific. And Manta Pacific was the one that a lot of people were talking about, right? A lot of people came in with some pre-staked ETH. God, I remember those days. People asked if I was going to get into that. I'm like, no, honestly. We were really just bullish on layer 2s that had CEX backing behind it. Mainly for that reason, because they had CEX backing behind it. So if you think about the layer 2s that frankly are still around and doing well, Base, of course, is probably the leader of that. But if you think about the other CEX L2s, you've got Ink from Kraken, which in my opinion, underrated chain on the OP Superchain. Shout out to their team. Mantle, which is from Bybit. Bybit ate a 9-figure loss and is still coming. So we'll see exactly how Mantle plays out. I mean, you could talk about BSC chain or Binance Smart Chain. There you go. They've been around forever. They're not going anywhere. PancakeSwap probably never goes away, right? But we'll see exactly how this happens. But most of these projects, unfortunately, just didn't. Oh, they haven't done the things that they needed to make the splash they did, or the narrative changed, right? In the case of Celestia, in the case of Barachain, it just wasn't a compelling reason to be used. We'll see exactly how this works with groups like Katana, which is a small boutique layer 2 with chain-on liquidity, much like what Barachain was looking to do, in my opinion, but a much smaller scale. Like there's one of everything on Katana. Shout out to Billy, by the way, Billy Jitsu and the team there. We'll hope to get him back on the show sometime soon. Anyway, not going to wax too long about this. Looking at the market, so CPI fell, right? Core CPI fell, which kind of, would you say, neuters the idea of a rate hike at the end? I still think they raise rates, guys. There's no, I don't see any reason why Kevin Warsh wouldn't raise rates at this point. More than half the governors support the idea of raising 25 bips. What does it lead to? I'm not really sure. But the idea that things are looking back up has pushed ETH back up to almost 2,000 to reclaim. I mean, are we looking at another trap situation? I'm not sure, but bullish sentiment and great on CoinMarketCap, by the way. I'm a CoinMarketCap contributor and partner. If you look at all this stuff, there's, well, die is die, but for the most part, we're looking at bullish sentiment across the board. Bitcoin is the tide that raises all ships, right? So as long as Bitcoin has life, ETH will continue to have life. They have the institutional backing with them. So that's a good sign. If we look at bubbles, which we haven't looked at in quite some time, with Bitcoin going up, that means everything goes up. Whether you're Zcash, whether you're Polygon, Piff. Shout out to Piff. They got a couple of big announcements recently as well. Chainlink, of course, still doing well. Pump is probably riding high off of Robinhood. Did I say Robinhood? My bad. Robinhood. Shout out to everyone in the trenches on Robinhood. Not playing that game this time, guys. I'm nobody's exit liquidity. All of you who decided to jump from base to Robinhood, let me know how that's going. ARB is up 15%. Of course, because if Robinhood does well, so does Arbitrum. Because I don't know if we talked about it I think we talked about it last week. Arbitrum gets 10% of all the transaction fees coming off of Robinhood, because Robinhood is based off of Arb Tech. They're using the Orbit stack from Arbitrum. So that's a smart move from Arbitrum. I'm sorry, this is less aggressive, right? 2 snaps for Arbitrum. And then 8% of that's going back to the DAO for ARB. Now, if they take that money and just start buying back and burning ARB, that would be crazy. But I don't think they'll do that. Regardless, good to see some updates here. AVAX, shout out to them. Aave is putting V4 back on AVAX. That's a good sign. AVAX, I guess, is number 3 in RWAs in terms of institutions. I didn't know that. That was something I saw on the timeline recently. Virtual continuing to show signs of life. Agentic is just the next wave, right? So Virtual being one of the largest platforms for agents is overall fairly bullish, right? So we'll see exactly what happens with sorry, I just thought I got a weird notification, but it's just me being live. we'll see exactly how the conflict in the Middle East plays out here. But we're also in a situation where President Trump has tweeted that Ron called a while ago and wants to make a deal. Guys, this is it'd be one. Remember the old saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me for the 42nd time. The hard part is that they keep putting these because he signed the MOU in Versailles, right? And the idea, I don't think 60 days is short enough, honestly. I don't think these guys can spend less than 6 days from violating the the parts of what's going on, mainly because of other geopolitical tensions. I mean, there's a not to bring up Star Trek Next Generation because I'm a huge Star Trek Next Generation nerd. There is an older episode where and I only remember it because it's with the group that they stretch their face using so they stay young forever. Picard has to navigate the fact that what he thought was a diplomatic mission with like good intentions turned out to be walking into a 1500-year blood war that was never going to fix itself. They did something, I forgot, but to make it happen. But there are just some times where you walk into a room, you're like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And I not to say, and I'm again not to push too much political narrative. I just don't see how this ends well by the end of the year, regardless if they make a deal or not. All of that stuff's been put into motion. There's ripple effects, right? Like things we see from deep space is stuff that's happened like today, happened a long time ago. So it's just like the ripple effects of what happened 3 months ago, 4 months ago at this point, is going to be very difficult for the rest of the world to maintain. Now, with that said, they're planning new ports. They're planning on upgrading, all types of refinery and stuff. Again, that's not happening in the next 60 days. All of that stuff will take months to get going. It's just there's no quick solution to stuff like this. Obviously, nobody wants to see a nuclear weapon put to use. But as I've said on, multiple shows, it's either going to take an act of supreme humility or an act of supreme force to decide what's going to happen. And well, we got Versailles from the humility piece, right? It's just not a good look, guys. All right, so let me move to a couple of things that caught my eye from the news this week. The first is that Gauntlet, which is a huge vault curator. They're called risk curators. So if I go, for example, to Camino on Solana, you have all of these different lending vaults, right? And I can sit here and pop these, right? 8% for PayPal USD, just earning with 111 million. That's a good clip right there. Steakhouse USDG high yield 7.92. These are way higher than you'll ever get in most cases, right? Unless you have a financial backing, then you might be able to find better. But overall, for stable coins, for Sol, these are all great. They're all great. Plus, you get additional incentives, and what you're doing is you're just giving your liquidity to a risk manager, a risk curator, much like Gauntlet, if they have this Sol balanced. And some of these have been well over 15 to almost 20% at times. Gauntlet is just one of those groups that has millions of dollars in the system, working it on a variety of different strategies and pass most of the yield back to you as an investor. And that's the beauty of web3. Well, Gauntlet went and raised another Series C, 125 million, led by SBI Holdings. Now, what's interesting about SBI Holdings is that they're one of the largest fintech groups in the world from Japan. And there's the Japanese uh, section right there. Interesting. So they're looking to get expanded stablecoin coverage beyond USD and EUR and to MXN. I'm guessing that might be Mexico. Mexican peso, I'm not sure. But JPY would be the Japanese yen. And growing the global team with an AI-supported approach to operational scale. So yeah, they're mainly just trying to get the cauldron a lot stronger, right? Because there's a lot of things cooking with what they've got going on across multiple ecosystems, Ethereum, all the L2s that are Ethereum compatible, as well as Solana and a couple other chains. The reason why this matters specifically for Gauntlet is that, from my knowledge, in speaking to institutions in Denver, there's two things that they need. They need to make sure that the people who they are using their clients' funds with, A, have enough liquidity, deep enough liquidity to take the deposits, and B, that they can control the deposits. So this doesn't necessarily mean we're going to see a deeper push on things on Solana, but what it does mean is that we're going to see more Gauntlet vaults, more than just Sol and USDC. In this case, on Camino. I mean, they're also on. They'll also probably be involved with Aave's hub and spoke liquidity, Euler or Morpho, their liquidity vaults, any other large vault curators that are out there that are looking for partnerships. Gauntlet has been pretty staunch on what they approve and who they work with, which has been very good for them. They're one of the few vault curators that we actually do recommend. With that said, we do keep a yellow because we have a traffic light system. So green for stable, for good, yellow for cautionary, just be careful, and red for just like this is high risk. You need to be aware of those risks. We went from taking vault curation with stablecoin farming from a green category to a yellow category in our communities, mainly because of what's happened with the news of, obviously, stream finance was a part of that. The Aave issue. We've had multiple groups who just lost funding, who just couldn't make enough things, happen. And then we saw what happened with Altura. We saw what happened with, Accountable and some of these other groups that, had liquidity that just kind of went poof. And that's what happens when you have a lot of cross-chain vaults. And while that's been a huge part of the growth of DeFi over the last 18 months, the idea of having these ERC 4626 cross-chain vaults, I mean, look at what happened with Layer 0 with Stargate. I mean, with their Hydra system, with having liquidity, deep liquidity in multiple places. Having risk curators are just people who talk to VCs or quote unquote seemingly have a lot of money in this market. Trust is a new commodity. That's the thing that's the thing that's going to be the most important, right? Because anyone in these systems, because they're trustless and permissionless, can start up a vault. Anyone can be a risk curator. That sounds scary when you say it out loud, but oftentimes these are the new fintech companies that are going to be the leaders, the frontier people on what's happening in the future. We need to make sure as many of those are well-funded, have good trust, have good teams, have good leadership to continue to take what's the new world's money. Because this is more than just US dollars. This is global money, right? Everything you see in Web3 is global. There is no borders. It's all borderless. It's all multinational, non-sovereign. That's the other thing too, is that no country, even though they've raised money, I mean, the goal here is now just to figure out how they can take all this extra money, get enough profit to pay back their VC obligations. No idea if SBI is actually taking an equity position in Gauntlet overall. I don't believe that's the case, but I think a lot of this too. A lot of these risk curators are looking to raise money from other countries because Unless something happens, guys, clarity is not passing. And I say that as someone who wants clarity to pass. I'm an ambassador for Stand With Crypto. But at the same time, operationally, it doesn't look good. So let's look at this. I did pull this up before we came online because I was on a call yesterday that was talking about this, and they said today the combined verbiage of both the past act for clarity from the banking committee is being combined with these separate ones from the ag committee, which has CFTC and some other things in it. And I've talked about this multiple times on the show. The problem with clarity is the optics. It's an ethics problem now. When the president of the United States, regardless if he says that I didn't make the trades, he didn't. His trust did. Trump Media, whatever the name of the company is. He's also been on record saying that the current financial system is broken, the current banking system is broken, and crypto is the future. He's made way more than 1.4 billion, guys. I mean, they bought 47 million in Bitcoin, ETH, and I want to say it was Sol. Oh no, it was 5 other meme coins. Bitcoin and ETH, they bought 47 million each. But then they split something else to across multiple coins for his inauguration in January 2025. If you guys remember that. Yes, it was from all the extra money they got from the Trump meme coin launch. But yeah, I mean, from an ethics standpoint, people are right to call out the president on this. Just like they're right to call out Nancy Pelosi. JD Vance has Vice President Vance has supposedly $70 million in AVAX. Granted, it's not worth $70 million anymore. There are multiple people, and you can go look at Congress Tracker. There's a couple different quantitative groups that are out there that are measuring the trades of elected officials. And, people like Kash Patel, the FBI director, they tracked him purchasing 6 figures worth of stock in a company before they took a major deal. The government did. There is insider trading going on. There is some inside baseball coming on. The problem with it in crypto is that, as we mentioned, no country owns this, but they do want to see some ethics on this, right? So you can make the argument, like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson says, that they only make $174,000 a year in Congress. They do need something like this to help supplement their income. That's a tired ass argument. You and I both know. All of you and I hopefully both know that the majority of the money that senators and Congress and just House reps get isn't just from their salary, right? Now, there are some people who try and keep it very lean and very honest, or as honest as they want you to see. But there's still tons of people that are worth way more than they were when they were first elected. And does clarity provide that legal accountability for that? It provides a framework that cannot be repealed immediately, right? We'd rather have the bill in so then we can change it in subsequent years than to not have one at all. With that said, with regards to DeFi institutions, will there be a stoppage of this institutional move to that if clarity doesn't pass? Yes, this is the year of integration. Banks are not stopping their move into this space. Stablecoins are still doing well, right? And we'll talk about that more in just a second. If you have any comments, any feedback, please feel free to let me know. Let me know what you think about this. Now, this is a bit of a blanket statement. There are multiple Democrats who are who have worked on this bill. The ethics part is really the problem and the reason why the ethics problem is an issue is because in order for clarity to pass out of the Senate, they need 60 votes. They don't get the simple majority. They're like 9 people short. I think they're 7 people short now. They're 7 people short from flipping and getting in order to get the votes needed to do this. And 3 of those 7 never going to flip. Very simple. So yes, please, you'll be surprised if you call your congressman, your senator, and tell them that you want clarity to pass. You'll be surprised how many of them still have the heart that they need to represent their constituents. So me being bearish on this has nothing to do with the bill itself. We definitely need guardrails. We definitely need structure. We need clarity. No pun intended. But the process is what I'm bearish on. Because there is so much divisiveness. There is so much partisan business here that I just don't see a way, because of all of this ethics issues, that this goes through today or this week even. And the thing is, if it doesn't go, and we said this back in April, right? Even April 3rd was a really, that's really cutting a close date. Because I mean, now they have to focus on the midterms. If it doesn't pass now, I mean, Senator Cynthia Lummis has already said 2030, and that won't be the Clarity Act anymore. There'll be something else entirely. So we'll see how this kind of rolls out. But with that said, CFTC Chair Michael Seelig, SEC Chair Paul Atkins have already put together a big package of things that they've already said they're going to do. So is that helpful for the majority of institutions that are already coming over? Yeah, obviously, because they're still coming. They're not stopping and saying, "Oh, we can't do this anymore." I think there's going to be a lot of moves in spite of that, and I think the SBI Holdings thing, getting into gauntlet, mainly because the other thing too that people aren't talking about, Trump executive ordered that there won't be a capital gains on crypto for this year only. I'm thinking there's going to be more of a move that he won't have crypto tax gains on American businesses that do crypto. Now, it's a very loose idea, and it's been one that's been happening. That's why Justin Sun reverse merged Tron into some small swag company in Orlando that was publicly listed. It's why Uphold, Algorand are all becoming U.S. companies, because they want the advantage of having not just the ear of the biggest influencer for this industry on the planet, which is unfortunate, but it's kind of where it's become, right? So we'll see how that works. I'll knock a couple of other things out that I was going to talk about. Suno. If you ever heard of Suno AI, it was hacked. Now, does this have anything to do with blockchain? Not particularly, but this is an interesting case because it might have an effect on what happens on AI moving forward, because they're showing that decades worth of music, lyrics, and podcasts from YouTube and Genius and stuff like that were used to create music. Now, I do have a thought about this. There are people who are not happy about this with regards to the arts, and I totally understand that. If you're an artist, you should be recognized for your talents, especially if you have an original created work. It might be more of an idea of what is monetizable art. It's always been a subjective issue, right? Music's the same way. There's only so many things that you can create with music originally, right? Because there's only so many notes, so many ways to express it. It was going to come to a point where that kind of goes away at all. So I have when I'm driving, I do like to have a mix of things that I listen to. And lately, I've kind of been in a phase of Hawaiian reggae, and I have a specific not podcaster, a YouTuber that I follow that I'm pretty sure all of the music is AI generated because I'm listening to it and there's like some really great songs, the really great vibes. The tones are great. The voices are awesome, but they all sound fairly similar in a way. Like the patterns, I'm like, I could have sworn I've heard this before. And then I also have some DJ mixes from actual Hawaiian or island DJs that put together released songs and things. And they don't sound anything like what I listen to from this one YouTuber. So I'm pretty sure that it's AI generated. So it's kind of interesting to see like the stark contrast on things like that. But it also just shows how similar a lot of music is. And that may come into just the overall scope of before we're like, well, what's a photo, right? Because you can sit there. I mean, they're selling you features on the new iPhone where they can take a photo you took and they will just extrapolate if you wanted to zoom out 1.5x. Midjourney's done this forever, and so have some other image models where you can zoom out and they'll just kind of guess what was around. You can even reposition yourself in the new version of iOS. I think it's like only 3 at a time because it's actually done in the cloud, not on device to do this, where you can actually, if you took a picture like this and you're looking at the camera, you can actually now reposition yourself so you're actually looking at the camera. And it's kind of crazy that's where technology is. But when it comes to smartphone pictures, they have a new name for it. I don't know if you know this, but it's called computational photography because most of what's there is taken through computational operations. Like there was a huge controversy because if you took a picture of the moon on a Samsung phone using, and they use computational photography, there were some people who were accusing them of actually taking AI based photos from other photos to give you back a picture of the moon. Because they figured, oh, you're trying to get a picture of the moon. We'll see if we can find some better ones that actually, with better lenses that took a better picture, and then kind of eerily molded into yours. So you're like, oh my God, I'm such a great photographer, right? But what's a photo anymore? I just saw a video right before as I was getting ready for the show with the agenda that there's a gentleman who's just like talking about how in 5 minutes he can take a picture that was just a pretty plain picture of the Golden Gate Bridge he took with his phone. It's now this dramatic masterpiece. And I'm just like, what's a photo? Soon we're like, be like, well, what's a song? Right? What does that generally mean overall? I think, excuse me, there'll be a devaluing of the arts in a way, because if an AI can create all of this music, how expensive should music be? Now, with that said, there's a whole industry of this and people willing to pay millions and and more to support their favorite artist. Look at artists like Taylor Swift, others that are out there that are singer-songwriters that have made a lot of money in this industry. And there are a lot of starving artists, a lot of buskers and stuff like that who haven't made anything. These types of things affect everybody on a large to small scale. AI is at the center of what we're doing in decentralized finance. It's making things faster. It's making things easier. You're going to be able to have everything tokenized on chain soon. So it's all going to be a matter of what's the value of anything going to be? Well, how do we set that? Anyway, I don't want to get into much of a deep thing, but interesting that in the age of mythos, that people are getting hacked on a pretty large scale. Speaking of hacks, Ostium, which is I believe it's an Arbitrum based perp dex. It's all on chain. They paused trading and everything, so you can't take any of your money out. But I read somewhere else that you can't see it over here. You can't see it over here. But I have a little canvas up there that says always send a test transaction. Apparently the hacker did send a test transaction, which I think is hilarious. Good for them. Might as well keep good OPSEC and if you're going to be doing it. Apparently the person doxed themselves because they forgot to take out some details on the wallet and where it was done from. Yeah. Anyway. Be careful if you're on Ostium. Let's see. Which takes us to another hack. BitAngel, who's I believe is the founder of Bitsong blockchain. Yep. Which is a Cosmos layer 1. Smart guy. Got fished with this type of stuff. With a malicious GitHub repo. Because he thought it was, suspicious link, but it was an actual link on GitHub. And it seemed good, seemed fine. Yeah, this is the part that bad idea. On his own system, he cloned the repo, ran yarn install. There was a small script that was in there in the supply chain that grabbed everything and started draining all of his wallets. Thankfully, all of Bitsong's stuff doesn't appear to be affected. That's just Cosmos. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Regardless, you got to be careful out there in the age of Mythos, guys. These guys are getting so good. It's almost terrifying to become a developer, honestly, because there's so many bad actors out there that are looking to steal money. My guess is this person is not from Ukraine, but there are bad actors everywhere. So just be careful what's going on there. With that said, a takeover is happening right now. Advent International is looking with Stripe to do a corporate takeover that would pretty much grab PayPal, turn it into a Stripe company. Now, how big of a deal is this? It's a pretty big one, if you ask me. Mainly because Stripe is now the largest player in the stablecoin game, right? They acquired Bridge, like 1.2 billion back in like December 2024. And at the time, people are like, what did they do that for? Stripe is everywhere now. So OpenUSD, we talked about that last week as well. It's an interesting idea because, and I just shout out to everybody I'm talking about here, The Block, BSCN. Yeah, so Stripe has OpenUSD. PayPal has PYUSD. If we look at the stablecoin graph here on DeFi Llama, stablecoin market cap still over 300 billion. This is expected to be 2 trillion in the next 18 months, by the way. USDT dominance falling again below 60%, which means there are bigger stablecoins coming around. Now, USDC continues to build on their market cap. We'll talk more about that in a second. Athena getting leapfrogged again by Sky Dollar, which is DAI, different version of DAI. Interesting that World Liberty Financial's USD1 is actually also flipped Athena. I think this number will change soon because Athena's just got so many partnerships and fingers in so many jars, right? But PayPal USD, considering where they started and were a bit of a, I don't want to say a laughing stock, but they were floundering with less than $40 million in market cap a couple years ago. To see them build to 2.839 billion is a huge testament to their continued work. I'll be honest, a lot of it thanks to Solana. If it wasn't for Solana and them getting the call to start building on Solana, I don't think PayPal USD is where it's at. So PayPal USD is really moved into a lot of places. If you're a YouTuber, you can be paid in PYUSD, by the way, and you can stake your PYUSD in your PayPal wallet for your PYUSD and earn up to 4%. I'm not going to go into the specifics of how that all works, but the idea that they offer, rates that are way better than your savings account is a good reason to consider PayPal USD as one of the better ones out there. With that said, this is where the line gets blurred with clarity, right? Because Genius is passed, and this was PayPal USD came out before Genius, so they're okay. But they've applied for an OCC national bank charter license, much like the one that was just given to Circle. Not sure if to my knowledge, they don't have the conditional approval. That's still in the works. But once they do and they get done, then they can actually just issue stable coins at probably an alarming rate. And if Stripe owns them, Stripe doesn't have one, by the way. They don't have a banking license. Maybe they know that PayPal USD is about to get one, and that's why they did the takeover. And again, with the takeover, the way that those work, with an all cash, or rather it's a consortium deal offering $60.50 per share to shareholders with a ton of money in private equity, by the way. This is a very juicy deal for shareholders. Like, do I want to give up my shares for this? Most people would probably say yes, because I'm sure this is well above what they're currently getting for PayPal. Let's find out. $55.16. I mean, it's higher. Let's look at the 1 month. Yeah, I mean, stock is up on the news, right? I guess you tell me, if you are a PayPal stockholder, would you take the deal? I could think of a lot of people that would. So we'll see exactly how this works. Now, they don't have to have a ton of people take it. They just have to have enough shares to officially take over the company. But this is not a small number, guys. Granted, most of that so they can get the stock. That changes a lot of the narrative, because they're going to have PYUSD, which they won't turn into OUSD, by the way. That would be a mistake, in my opinion. There's a lot of good equity that PayPal's built in the digital realm. So I don't think that happens. With that said, Circle, Jeremy Allaire, he had an interesting post about agentic economy, but then he also talked about this. They've been doing a lot of grants for developers on their new Arc blockchain, which is going live soon. But I think this is excuse me. This is a big sign. And I've mentioned this on a couple of spaces. A lot of people look at crypto as like a way to, just get some risk adjusted return. They're looking to trade the next hot meme coin or whatever the next tokenized deal is, right? They don't think much about the tech. Me, I'm in it for the tech. There are a lot of people that I know that are still in the space. We're in it for the tech. Most of the countries in Africa, or what we call the global south, web3 technology is an unlock in technology to bring their societies to that next level. This is more than just tech to them. This is a better way of life for them, their families, their communities, in a way that I don't think most investors think about. We're just like, oh yeah, I've got some spare change. Let me just put it into this, this, and this. And yeah, we'll have a portfolio that gives us passive income. This is a better quality of life all around for companies in most of these countries. That old saying, this is not a handout, this is a hand up. This is a hand way up for them with Web3. This shapes the absolute economic identity of communities moving forward. And I don't think enough people think about that. And I think it's fascinating to see the dynamics of how, so many more countries are going to be participants in Web3 because of what it can present economically to help bring them their economic identity further up into the world purview. So, did Circle need a layer 1 blockchain? No, but they're doing it because they want to be able to have a piece of this pie. Stable coins, it's what's going to bring them to the next level. If we're going to see 3 trillion in market cap for stable coins, that's not coming from the US. That's coming from all of these countries from around the world using this tech. So having mature, robust technology that all of these groups across the world can use, super important to them. So that's why when they say that wasn't by design, oh, you bet your butt it was by design, because Circle knows. Adoption is not just a US thing. It's good to have it. They have that. But look at how much of those transactions in Q1, I think 30 trillion in quarter one, right? And 80% of that was USDC. The other 20 was USDT and the other equivalents. I mean, USDC is on a huge high right now. And the fact that they have a blockchain that can settle and accommodate the technology for other countries to do this is going to be huge. And this is where Circle is starting to make some headway. This is why people bought the IPO, for stuff like this. Circle partners with JCB, one of the oldest credit cards on the planet outside of Diners Club, right? USDC will be able to be settled. And this is a play directly shot at the bow of Visa and MasterCard. They already have a partnership to some degree, but being able to go to different countries and specifically work to make USDC a liquid commodity for them to use to settle, brilliant. Well, this is new. I didn't see this earlier. You bookmark this. This is actually almost burying the lead. I'm going to retweet this. Stop it. I'm going to retweet that right now. DTCC for institutionals, for businesses. They're going to be tokenizing stocks in U.S. treasuries with 40 major firms on Wednesday. That's today, guys. This is a trial, apparently. But still, this is huge news. Again, for those of you who watch and think this is funny money, you're going to be left behind. For those who have been following my content, I've been saying since the beginning of the year, this is the year of integration. This is exactly what this means. This is exactly what this means. Sorry, I just need to look at myself so I knew exactly where I was pointing. What was the other thing? Yes. Banks in Argentina are getting access to USDC. This is huge. This is all what they want to do. This is all that other groups like Paxos with USDG wants to do. USDC is gaining a ton in market cap quickly through deals like this. They're going to be able to issue a ton more. Even their institutional treasury bill backed coin USYC already earning tons in market cap off of this. Now the price is interesting, but overall, Ripple. What are we gonna do, Ripple? Don't hear a whole lot about XRP in the news lately. I don't know what to say about that. Don't know what to say. But this is a big deal. This is a huge deal if they get this, because it makes you wonder what happens next. Because Bridge can issue a ton of stablecoins. They have the infrastructure. And that's the thing too. USDC, Circle, Stripe, Tether. The one thing they've built, not only just the ability to issue stablecoins, they've also built the rails. They've built the infrastructure to support these economies. And that's huge. It's absolutely huge. We'll see where they go from here, but this is big news if they actually get this done. Granted, when you see something like this, these things take time to come together, even after the takeover. So it could be sometime next year where this becomes, just everyday thing where you see PayPal, a Stripe company. Speaking of that, there's a bunch of companies that PayPal owns. What happens to eBay? Because eBay is a PayPal company. So yeah, a lot of butterfly effect here, a lot of ripples, right? That become big parts of what's going on due to this move. So I'm curious to see how it goes. I will go into this last part here pretty quickly. All right, so Homelabs. Let me pop out and just kind of talk about why I think this matters. So the reason why I think this matters, guys, for Homelabs is the reason why web3 exists, besides being a decentralized infrastructure, is to give you the ability to own your data. Now, there are multiple ways you can own your data, but I think for most people, what most people are looking to do, and I should probably bring up the article specifically about span. I think it's span. Right. Span with NVIDIA. And it's in a trial right now, right? People have a lot of things to say about hyperscalers, data centers, and a lot of these just gigantic compounds from major companies being used to host data processing, LLM training, LLM being a large language model, much like what you see in what they consider AI. People are looking at, Elon's talked about putting data centers in space. Some people looked at putting data centers in the ocean, which, could be bad for cooking the ocean in some way. Who knows? How many would they have to put underwater for the global temperature of water to rise even a tenth of a degree? That would be an interesting thing to consider. So a lot of groups are considering how can we get data processing, if there's going to be a pause on data centers, to be a thing. And I think the answer is we're going to go after individual Americans, right? So if we're looking at, this is we talked about this on the show when it came out, by the way. These fractional data centers. So basically they're the size, I guess we're not going to see it here. I actually had the actual thing from NVIDIA because it's Dell, Span, and the PulteGroup thing is just for using it within California, if I'm not mistaken. Well, PulteGroup is from Bill Pulte, who's the current director of national intelligence, I believe the interim one. Regardless, he was the former head of Fannie and Freddie inside of the housing and urban development cabinet position. Having many data centers on homes is a very interesting way to incentivize that. I believe the deal is you get it in your home. They're roughly about $2,900, like $3,000, and you pay $150 a month for the service. Now, what do you get with that? you get your electricity bills and your internet bills paid for, which for a lot of people, probably especially in the state of California or anywhere else, probably a good deal. I can tell you my electric bill, and I don't do it. Obviously, I run a couple of local AI models, but I'm not doing Bitcoin mining or anything like that in my home. And my bill is roughly between $250 and $300 a month, especially now with the air conditioner on because it's hot. To pay $150 to have that and my internet bill paid for, yeah, that's a great deal. I think a lot of people come up with that. What's interesting is that Elon came out with when I believe it was the Cybertruck was first announced. He had a presentation saying that we could solve America's energy problems if we just had a 10 square mile installation of power walls or just solar panels, right? It'd be 10 square miles. If you think about it, you're like, that seems like a lot of space. It's really not, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things. That would be enough to power the entire nation with regards to power. I mean, you put something like that, like in the, somewhere in an area where there's lots of abundant sunshine, like along the continental drift area. There's just a lot of environmental things that people don't like about it. I drill baby drill, coal, whatever. Clean energy is something that's probably going to be, well, it has been a big talking point for a long time. With that said, I've been to some of the data centers that are here in the Omaha area, because they're all here. Amazon, Google, Meta, gigantic campuses. Meta and Google specifically, they're like floating cities. Dozens of buildings on the campuses for each. Full closed loop water and electricity. They have their own power grid on each one. So overall, I'm not going to say that, for Star Wars fans that we're going to turn to Coruscant or anything like that. Entire planet where it's all urban city, but we don't have to. But we'll see exactly how this plays out, because we are having an AI bubble issue. I think there's a chance that AI bubbles, the AI bubble popping becomes a huge thing, and suddenly OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google have a token problem because no one's going to want to pay them because there's too many free models and they don't have to subsidize tokens anymore. But having a home lab is a way that you can actually self-host, because that's the one thing that we need, right? We need a self-hosting revolution. Yes, people rely on SaaS, right? So think about if you don't have cable television anymore. How much is your streaming bill? If you have Netflix, if you have Hulu, if you're using Apple Fitness or playing Apple Arcade, think in your head, how much are you spending a year on this stuff? Is that something that you possibly could save money on if you just did most of those services at home? And that's where home labbing comes in. Now, home labbing is a problem right now because of the AI issue. Memory, storage, those are very hard things to find at regular prices of what they were even a year ago, 6 months ago. Where's the GitHub repo here? Deploy your own SaaS is what it's called from Eterity. You can deploy your own VPN. There's also web3 versions. Shout out to TPN, Subnet 65, and the BitTensor ecosystem, using the BitTensor resources to have your own VPN decentralized. There's also music streaming services that you can serve locally and then point apps to, or web services to listen to that kind of stuff. If you know your way around vibe coding, you can actually vibe code your own app to do this for you that connects directly to your local home lab for that. Photo hosting is one that I think a lot of people are very curious about, specifically with something called Image. image looks a lot like Google Photos, if I'm not mistaken. It allows you to have a Homelabs internal hosting thing where you can actually host your own photos, ebooks, docs, especially in a world where, people like GitHub got blasted by Mythos class, pen tests and stuff like that. A lot of exploits in April. April was so awful with all of the different things. And May was not very good either. Jellyfin, Plex is also in this thing, right? Besides Jellyfin, where you can host your own videos and access it from anywhere on your home network. Notes, stuff like this. Even, I guess I didn't even think about bookmarks. Could use that with a lot of my personal agentic swarm. URL shorteners, calendars, just cloud storage. I use SyncThing all the time. I use that in Obsidian for a lot of things that I do with my knowledge stuff. I didn't even know there's yeah, I've heard about DNS doing that. But yeah, Pi-holes, people have been using Pi-holes for years. And again, a lot of people will think this is too much to take advantage of. And you're probably right. The majority of people won't take the time to do this, but to the ones that do, being able to host all your own stuff, all of this stuff is actually very powerful. So Homelabbing is only going to get more and more popular. I mean, the fact that Image has 107,000 GitHub stars, meaning people have saved it so that they can actually work on it. And it was updated 14 minutes ago, so it's actively being maintained. These are all things that are big with regards to the self-hosting revolution, because much like self-custody with our wallets and what we're doing, we want to be able to control things by hosting them ourselves, right? Why put stuff in a bank when you can self-custody yourself and find better places to get better rates and better risk-adjusted return? That's the whole point of all of this. So if this is your first time hearing the term Homelab, I definitely recommend that you check out the homelabber.com. Nice blog about that. And also just looking at this GitHub, I'm sure you can just search for deploy your own SaaS. People have forked it 745 times. So there might be other versions of this, but the point is it's just a spot where you can go and look to see some basic things that you have. And your Homelab machine doesn't have to be crazy. You can find older, like 12 to 16 terabyte drives that are recommissioned for a fraction of the price that they're going for. Now, that's still like $300, $300 at the minimum. But using an older system, older things that can still be used for stuff like this, because you don't have to hit it all the time. You're just there to have the Homelab. With that said, I've seen some Homelab setups go a little bit overkill, right? You just see a little room in the basement. There's like a huge rack with all these lights and cables everywhere. You don't have to be that. And at some point, I'm sure that someone's going to make a lot of money charging people for not only just consulting, but setting things up, or if for people who don't want to do this, giving them a better decentralized solution, right? Because that's the other part of it too, is that the more you rely on companies or software as a service, infrastructure as a service, the more you're going to be tied into that ecosystem moving forward. So anyway, that's Homelabbing. So if you want to be in a situation of self-custody, not only just with your funds like we've talked about on this show, then you want to check out Homelabbing, because you have the ability to, like for me personally, I did a recent scrub of a lot of subscriptions that I had because I had Amazon Photos, Google Photos, Apple, iCloud. I'm moving most of that to Image. The only issue, of course, is just making sure you have a good backup. So sometimes maintaining one subscription just for that backup, probably worth it, because you may have decades of photos and videos that you want to save. For most people, they don't necessarily support the idea of putting in the cloud, because you're kind of tied to it, right? Same reason why people are looking for streaming services now, doing it locally, is because whenever you pay for Spotify, you don't actually own that music. If you're on Amazon Music or whatever, on Apple Music, you don't own any of those songs. You're just renting them. You're not even renting them. You're leasing access to listen to them. So you kind of have to figure out what it is that you want to do. I already pay for YouTube Premium, so that's why I don't have Spotify. Anything I need to listen to mostly is on either a YouTube video or YouTube Music, which, eh, eh. I guess with the future of AI music, does it matter? Eh, I don't know. I'm one of those people that ties my memories to music. Like I can remember a lot of things based on a song that was there. I also heard the other day that smell is the oldest sense that you have. So sometimes there's smells that give me back a lot of memories as well. But anyway, not going to ramble much longer. Want to appreciate you guys for checking out the show. Yeah, that's really about it. We'll be back with another great panel next week. We do this show every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. If you want to check out the Friday show that's called Beat the Banks, where we talk more about self-custody. Might talk a little bit more about this on Friday, actually, because it's important to understand that for a lot of people, they don't like the idea of doing self-custody because that's more work for themselves. But if you're actually in this space anyway, doing it, you should probably look into self-hosting as many things as possible, because having that self-hosted mentality will open you up for things like digital citizenship, being able to hold. And this is the one thing that people don't maybe realize is that being able to hold your own data and take it with you, like if you go to the doctor, if you go to the DMV, being able to own that data and you have to provide that to them can be very powerful. Now, there are a lot of people who are very forgetful, very clumsy. That's one thing. But for people who really want to have their affairs in order in terms of just having all of their data available, private, encrypted, and self-owned, this is like the web3 and everything that goes along with it ties to a lot of your things, right? We just have to get the rest of the world flipped over to that paradigm, because right now you're the product. You're not providing the data. You are the data. So being able to charge companies to use your data, I think, is going to be the biggest flip with the self-hosting revolution, because you'll be hosting all of your information. They're not going to have access to that unless you explicitly give them some information. And then there may be a whole licensing thing that comes along with that. Like I said, I'm not gonna try and predict the future, but overall, I think that's a really important part of what's going to happen with what happens moving forward. So we'll see you on Friday for Beat the Banks. And we've been doing that. We've been doing that show since January 22. We've been doing this show since December of 2021. So we talk about a lot of great things here, and we'll have another great panel next week to break down the issues that are out there, talk about some fun things, and hopefully bring you some value. If you did get some value, please, would love it if you like, follow, subscribe, help us with the algorithm, so we can get more people watching this content, because it's important. And I want to again thank everybody who's always been a big part of the journey. With that said, we'll see you next time. Beacons up. Banks down. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.